Okay, let's look at a problem with long division of polynomials. Okay, so what we have here is we have 5x to the fourth minus 3x cubed plus 2x squared minus 1. And then we want to see if we can divide out x squared plus 4. So the first thing we've got to do is write our original polynomial that we want to try to divide under our long division here. And you do have to notice that there's no x figure, there's no linear figure, there's no number for it, but we have to give it a space, so we're just going to write it as 0x. Okay, and the same thing is going to happen in our divisor. We're going to have to write it as 0x. Now, this doesn't always happen, but it does happen if you have x squared and then just a number. Well, you got to account for the 0x so that this works properly. Okay, now we're going to actually start the long division. So here's how we do it. We look and we say we want to subtract so that we can cancel out 5x to the fourth. So that means we need to think about, we need 5x to the fourth down here. So I say x squared times what gives me 5x to the fourth? Well, that's 5x squared, right? 5x squared times x squared gives me 5x to the fourth. So I'm going to go ahead and write that here, and then I'm going to multiply everything here by 5x squared. So I already did it with x squared. Now 0 times 5x squared is still going to be 0. So that's going to be 0x cubed, notice. And that kind of helps us keep our place. And then we're going to have 5x squared times 4 is going to give me 20x squared. Okay, so now I'm going to subtract. And what happens here is that your first term should always cancel out. So this cancels, right? And so now I have negative 3x cubed minus 0 is negative 3x cubed. I have 2x squared minus 20x squared. That's going to be negative 18x squared. Okay, now I'm going to bring down my 0x. And now I'm going to repeat this process. But instead of looking up here, I'm going to look, well, you could look up here, but really I'm looking at negative 3x cubed. What can I multiply x squared by to get negative 3x cubed? Well, if I think about that, x squared times negative 3x is going to give me negative 3x cubed. And now I'm going to restart this same process. I'm going to say negative 3x times x squared gives me negative 3x cubed. Negative 3x times 0x is still going to be 0, but I'm going to write plus 0x squared just to keep my place. And then 4 times negative 3x is going to be negative 12x. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to delete this here because this is going to cancel out. We have negative 18 minus 0. Well, we'll still have negative 18x squared, right? And then we're going to have plus 12, right? Because it's really 0 minus a negative. It's going to be plus 12x and minus 1. Okay, so now we got one more round to do here because if you notice, now we're at x squared. So now we're going to multiply by, well, what can we get to multiply by x squared to get negative 18x squared? That's a little easier. It's going to be negative 18, right? So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to get negative 18x squared here. Then I'm going to get 0x times 18. And then I'm going to get 4 times negative 18. Okay, so we got, let's see, 4 times negative 18, we're going to have negative 40 times 8 times 4 is 32, so we're going to have negative 72. Okay, and so now you can kind of clearly see that this didn't work out great because we still have a remainder, but we can write our final answer. So this is going to cancel, right? And then what we have left here is going to be our remainder. So that's going to be 12x minus 0 is 12x. And then negative 1 minus a negative 72 is actually positive 71, right? Because it's minus a negative. Okay, so this is my remainder. And here's how you would write your final answer. We're going to have all parts. We're going to have this times this, and then my remainder. So the way it would work out is that we have f of x. Actually, let's write it up here. We have f of x equals my divisor, which is really x squared plus 4. We don't need the 0x anymore, right? And then we have 5x squared minus 3x minus 18. And then we have plus 12x plus 71, okay? So I kind of ran out of space there, but you can see that plus 12x plus 71 gets written at the end of this. Okay, and now we've done the long division of this polynomial.